Welcome to Democratic Television, a program of the Santa Clara County Democratic Party that brings insights, perspectives, and attitudes of our always thoughtful Democratic guests. Today we're joined by Democratic activist Carol Garvey. Carol, thanks for being on Democratic Television.
Well, thanks for having me.
Now, before we get into all the activities that you've done as a Democrat and head of Democratic Activists for Women Now and all that, let's get a little background on you. Where are you from? Where'd you grow up? Did you have any interesting hobbies?
Well, I'm a native Californian. I was born in San Francisco, and we moved down from, I think, El Cerrito when I was 2. So I've lived in San Jose my whole life.
Oh.
Yes.
Well, that will be a great piece of information in case you decide to run for public office.
I guess so.
You're a native, and you probably
Yes.
remember the orchards.
I do remember the orchards.
See?
I lived on the east side, and we kind of lived near Penitencia Creek.
Mm-hmm.
And we spent a lot of time at the creek
Mm-hmm.
playing. And when I think about it now, it seems like we really we were just, in a way, left to our own devices, but I guess there was just a feeling of safety because we just spent a lot of times riding our bikes all over the place and playing, learning how to pick up crawdads and frogs and stuff like that at Penitencia Creek.
So,
Yeah.
they were innocent times.
Yes.
I remember those days too. And my wife and I don't carry ourselves that way now with our daughter,
Right.
unfortunately. So, did you enjoy school? Did you have interesting experiences or memorable experiences that made you want to be an activist one day?
Well, when I was a kid, we spent a lot of time outdoors, and we had a cabin in the Santa Cruz Mountains, so we also spent a lot of time running around there. And then I really liked art, and my mom, she was my adopted mom, but we really got along well, and she kind of got me, I guess, at an early age and knew that I liked art. And even though I was like 7 years old, she would, instead of dolls, I would get like a wood burning set or a glass mosaic making set or something. So I spent time, either outdoors or doing artwork when I was a kid.
Expressing
And-
yourself.
Yeah. And so she was, my mom, Henrietta, was one of the first people to have open heart surgery back in 1960.
Oh.
And she survived the surgery, but she did die about 3.5 years later when I was 10. And then shortly thereafter, John F. Kennedy was killed about a month later. And so here I was 10 years old thinking like my world had ended and what's going on. These adults seem to not know what's going on, or they don't seem to be in control.
Yeah.
And then that was 63. And then in 64, there were the civil rights riots, I guess they called them, that played out on TV, and where there were dogs and water cannons,
Right.
Directed at people, and I just couldn't believe that this world and what was happening. It just didn't seem fair that there was
Right.
this horrible injustice being done to these people, and so I think that sort of fueled my interest in social justice at an early age.
So they were formative times and certainly did impact people that made people think, I don't like these rules. I don't like the way people are carrying themselves. So after that, you went on to college locally?
I went to college for a while. I left home like a month after I graduated from high school. And a year later, I went to San Jose State. I was supporting myself and going to school. And of course, it was, during the Vietnam War, and there was a lot of activism and a lot of anger. And so I was just having some troubles concentrating on studies and also paying my rent and living, And so after a while, I had to drop out and just work for I had lots of different jobs, part-time jobs, until I got my job with the county, which was as a dispatcher for emergency services.
And you started that in the late 70s?
Yeah, 78. And initially I was dispatching for San Jose Police and Fire, and then after they left, that was 1990, when they left, I got retrained and learned how to dispatch paramedics and all the emergency paramedics for the county and the sheriff's department.
So here you were, this creative, maybe sensitive type, and here you are now doing life and death stuff. I mean, stuff where you don't have time to think twice, where your instincts have to be exactly right on. That just speaks to your qualities. You're able to diversify and do a lot of different things.
I guess so.
Did you meet anybody special at that time?
Oh, well, yes.
I know that's a leading question.
Yes, I met my husband there, Keith Garvey, and he was a union steward. Mm-hmm. And so when we first met, I was doing one-on-one training with a woman named Sally, and he knew her quite well, and so he was kind of teasing her, but through me, he was asking me how is she doing as a trainer, and that if she did anything that I wasn't happy with, he wanted to hear about it. So he started out teasing me that way, and then finally he asked me on a date to go to a Giants game. Oh. And then driving up there is where he told me all about the union. Oh. And his philosophy. Like union philosophy. We're all in this together, and mm-hmm. we're only as strong as our weakest link, and and about compromise and how you build on the accomplishments from the previous contract, and then each year or each contract you improve, and
right.
and so things, whether it's monetary or other kind of benefits like safety shoes or whatever, you gradually
make your strides.
Make your strides, yes.
Well, let's get to the interesting stuff. You guys were off on a trip. You went beyond dating, and you were in the Pacific on a ship.
Oh.
You know what I'm leading up to.
Yeah. Well, okay, this has to do with my fear of public speaking. And I we were going to get married, and I wanted to be able to enjoy my own vows, enjoy my own wedding. And I was afraid that if I got married in front of like 100 of our closest friends or whatever, I would just be so nervous that I wouldn't be able to, even like hear what I was saying. And so I decided that we would get married in Alaska when we took our cruise up there. And so I arranged with someone from the St. Peter's by the Sea Episcopal Church for us to get married there. And there was like a little snafu because of the magistrate they were, I guess, pulling strings because the Alaska law says you have to be a resident for 3 days to be able to get married there. So they were making this exception because, I'd written a letter explaining who we were, and, we weren't kids and all that.
Right.
So anyway, when we got there, she had gone on vacation, and no one knew. They just laughed at us, when we said, well, we're here for our license. And so then Keith took over, because by then I was too nervous to do anything. So he took over and he wrote something, that I guess worked, because we got married there.
Made it all happen.
Yeah, made it all happen.
So then you came back, and now we have a house with 2 union activists, and you got involved in politics at some point, or was there a memorable election that came up that?
Well, we lived in an apartment in Willow Glen, and Lee Sturdivant, who's a longtime Democrat, she lived there too. And we work swing shifts, so we'd get off at 11 and we'd go run for about a mile or a mile and a half. And Lee and her partner, Peter Zago, would be walking. And so we would cross paths, we would go clockwise and they would go counterclockwise. We'd meet somewhere. Anyway, we met them. And so one day she knocked on our door and asked us to stuff some envelopes for Zoe Lofgren's first campaign for the Board of Supervisors. And so then the next thing was she asked us to be the precinct captain for her. And in the meantime, we got to meet Zoe at a union function where she was interviewed, and so we liked her, and and so we supported her, and we did that, and that was our first foray into local Democratic politics.
Well, you started off with a great one, and
Yeah.
look at Zoe now.
Yeah.
So you got more and more involved in, I know the 1992 election was a big election, but before that you had done some precinct walking and taking responsibility for getting all your neighbors involved.
Yeah, 88 was the Dukakis campaign,
yeah.
and I was a precinct captain for a district that was near San Jose State, and there were a lot of halfway homes there. And there were people that were what I call disenfranchised, basically mentally ill or physically or developmentally disabled living in these homes. And they at first said, they couldn't vote. And when I said, well, why not? They had different reasons. Some they couldn't get there or, whatever. And so I was able to get absentee ballots for many of them, and then hand carried them over there, and met the Bames. I don't know if you remember the Bames. They
Jeff
allowed
and Marge.
Yes, and they allowed me to use their home on election day to get out the vote of the people that we had identified. So it was a really good experience. Oh, and then I'll just tell you this one thing. At the Democratic Convention last year, I ran into Michael Dukakis and Kitty and at Invesco Field. And so I stopped and talked to him, and I said, I wanted you to know that I was the precinct captain for you. And he said, oh, where was that? I said, San Jose. He said, oh, my son was born at O'Connor Hospital.
Oh.
And then, so then we talked about, the importance of grassroots and getting everybody turned out for the Obama election, last year's election. So, and it was just great. It was like a full circle of a moment.
Yeah. Great. We're going to take a little break right now. When we come back, we'll talk about more recent stuff.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Pierluigi Oliverio, City Council member from the City of San Jose, and I'm asking you today to become involved in your local Santa Clara Democratic Party. When we act locally, we have the ability to change things on a larger level, and that organization exists today for you to volunteer, whether it's small or large, small time commitment, big time commitment, but the idea is there's an organization ready to put you in to work to assist with the democratic ideals, whether it be healthcare, whether it be environment, whether it be independence from foreign oil, having an economy that rises everyone. Things that we believe are good for our society locally are great at the national level. And now, coming up as an election year, this is the right time to get involved. So, put your best foot forward and pick up your telephone and call 408-445-9500. Do it today. Do it soon. Do it now. Let's help the Democratic Party. Thank you.
Welcome back to Democratic Television and our guest, Democratic activist Carol Garvey. So Carol, I know along the way you got involved with an organization called DAWN, Democratic Activists for Women Now. What made you want to get involved in that important organization?
Well, someone introduced me to Willie Wool, and she's one of the founding members,
Yes.
and she's just this wonderful woman that was doing everything for the organization. Dawn got started in 1992 as a group of people who were working to get Barbara Boxer elected for the first time, and Boxer didn't have a campaign office in Santa Clara County. So this group of people that were committed to helping her got together and did that. And then after the election, they decided they were having so much fun together and they wanted to work on women's issues. So they formed DAWN, as a chartered club with the Democratic Party. And I came on the scene, I think, around '96. And to me, it was a kind of a natural progression from union labor politics.
Yeah.
And
Social justice stuff.
yeah, because they have the same kind of, it seems like union issues are women's issues, for me anyway, in large part, like health care and child care and pay equity for women and things like that. So when I met Willie and I liked what they were doing, at that time, it still hasn't changed much, but at that time there were about 30% women elected to all the different cities and city councils and boards and stuff in Santa Clara County.
School boards and
School
all.
boards, yeah. And so...
So it's mostly men.
Yes, mostly men.
I do the math.
Yes, and we're... and there are certain issues that, involve women that are particular to women that I think just being a woman, you have much more of an understanding. And so... and since we are half the population, it just seemed like the right thing to do, to get involved in this organization.
So what were some of the issues that you saw Dawn take up? Did they take up some of the union issues? Or I imagine choice was a big issue, the whole question of abortion rights and women having the right to make their own decisions, which wasn't received well by, unfortunately, the other part of the population that is benighted.
Right. Choice is our number one issue. We endorse progressive pro-choice men and women, but we only give women money. That's our claim to fame. We're trying to get more women elected, and we feel like they need more help. And so, but choice is one of our core issues. In Santa Clara County, I don't know, 10 or 15 years ago, there was the Operation Rescue.
Oh, yeah.
Which we helped, have people be escorts for the women.
Protect the Planned Parenthood clinics and all that from their siege.
Right.
Yeah.
And then in the last 5 years, there's been 3 anti-choice propositions on the ballot that we've worked to, make fail, whatever. So that's kind of what we do with them. I feel like it's important because as a woman, it's my body, it's our bodies that we should have control over, and we shouldn't be at the whim of some politician that says,
Right.
that says otherwise.
Now, you weren't just a member of Dawn, you were a longtime leader of Dawn, the president or chair. So let's talk about that a little bit. What got you to step up to the plate and take a leadership role?
Well, I call myself the reluctant president, but I was the president for almost 7 years, as it turned out. I was being groomed, sort of, by Willie Wool to become the president. I was the executive VP, but I had this total fear of public speaking, and I really it was holding me back. And so I did not want to run for president, and I didn't run for president. But then we did have a shakeup in the organization when some of our funds went missing, and so I was, then being the executive VP, I took over as president, and that's how it started.
So all those fears went aside, or?
Kind of, yes.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, things have improved quite a bit.
Well, what has the organization done in terms of its own development? You guys do recruiting and fundraising events and things like that, and
well, we endorse in every election cycle, and it's a little bit of an arduous process. I mean, I think for the candidates and for us, because they have a written questionnaire, and then we do a half-hour interview.
So the written questionnaire asks them about the issues that are important to Dawn and other Democrats.
Yeah, and we, we're kind of like coming together with a lot of the different clubs. There's you know, like the APA, Asian Pacific American Club, Latino, African American, there's LGBT, lots of different, and then there's some regional areas. There's lots of clubs in Santa Clara County, and we're trying to be much more unified in what, in how we focus our questions, and it's like we have each other's back. You know, we support them and they support our issues, and so then after those two things happen, we have our endorsement brunch, where our members actually vote on who to endorse. We make
so based on how they fill out the questionnaires and the half-hour interview, which sounds like an awful long time,
yeah.
then they come forward for this
And
brunch.
then they come forward for the brunch, and they speak for a couple of minutes, and then they take questions, depending on how many candidates and how much time, you know, how many candidates there are basically, and how much time. Then they may have 5 minutes of questions or whatever together, you know, the candidates that are running against each other. And we have a recommendation. The board has made a recommendation, and so then the memberships either vote to sustain our recommendation or overturn our recommendation, which has happened. But
And I understand those are fairly interesting meetings. Your numbers get quite large.
yeah, they're pretty lively.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's always, you know, something. People always seem to have something to say, and they're kind of fascinating, really. I think it's well worth people's time to come and attend. They don't have to be a member, and they're free. And there's always lots of food. So.
Well, what that tells me is that the Dawn name is important to candidates, that they feel that it's going to enhance their ability to get support, to get noticed by the voting population if they can get Dawn's endorsement.
I think both men and women want our endorsement, and that speaks well of Dawn.
Yes.
Especially the men, knowing they're not going to get a financial contribution, you know, but they still try and for our endorsement, and they seem to be quite happy to get it.
What other kinds of things do you guys get involved with? I know you do fundraisers and you bring people together, and I bet brunch is part of that too, or something edible about your meetings.
Well, we do that. We have fundraisers. We haven't had one for a couple of years. We're having one soon, and then we started a mentoring program. We partnered with Assemblymember Joe Cotto, and he actually gave us the seed money to sponsor 2 women to go through the Emerge program, which is a mentoring training program for Democratic women who want to run for politics. And so we have 2 candidates. Our only stipulation was that they come from Santa Clara County. So this year we sponsored our first 2, and it's the women are Darcy Green and Papia Gamblin.
Oh.
Yes. So
I didn't know that, but I know both of them are very energetic and out there and doing a lot of good stuff, both professional women. That's very cool.
So we're looking, we're hoping to continue that program, that partnership with Emerge, and hopefully we'll be able to sponsor more than just 2. They only take about 24 candidates a year.
So it's a big deal to be in the program, to be accepted.
It's centered up in San Francisco, or based in San Francisco. So, so I'm encouraging them to, reach farther down the peninsula.
We have about 3 minutes left, and I'm wondering, do you have any advice for Democrats or women Democrats or young women about getting involved? Do you think it makes a difference? Is it worthwhile? Is it rewarding based on your experiences?
Oh yeah, I think it's, for me, I mean, I've met so many people that I consider true friends and mentors. It's been, I mean, to me it makes sort of life worth living in a way, because I really feel the Democratic Party is the party that, seems to care about people all people. You know, there's that saying, a rising tide lifts all boats, not just the yachts. And I feel that that's what the Democratic Party says, you know, does for us. It tries to help everybody and make lives better for everybody, for our whole community.
So that sounds like coming full circle from when you were addled from the death of a John Kennedy or whatever and said, something's wrong with this picture, and here you are a few years later still working to make that picture a better picture and a more inclusive picture.
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, there's so many people who have left us, you know, that have been such leaders, and including my husband, as you know, and Madge Overhouse and John McEntee, and I mean, so many people that live in our valley and have done such wonderful work. And I feel like, in a way, we owe it to them, but we owe it to, you know, our children and grandchildren, and I feel like we need to try and make this place better for future generations.
Well, and we are at such a crossroads in California's history and all that, that I'm counting on you to continue to be active, and other people like you and like me and like others, so that we can get people to not give up on the system as it is. So I just wanted to thank you very much for being on Democratic Television. I'm sorry to say our half hour is over with, but we look forward to working with you in the future.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for watching Democratic Television. Give us a call at 408-445-9500 or visit our website, www.sccdp.org. Help make a difference, like Carol Garvey. Thank you.